So yes, I had a bit of a problem with the stream. This one is restarting the stream. I was taping away, the camera was on a tripod, and suddenly every birdie disappeared. So hopefully you are able to join us. I see at least one thumbs up, so you can see me this time. I'd actually started another stream a minute ago, and it did not seem like anybody was joining in. We've got Mighty XT. Excellent, excellent. Super, super glad that you are able to find us. So really not sure what happened there. Hi, Einstein. Hi, Aaron. I did get a new tripod that the camera is sitting on, and I was at least 2 feet away from it, so I can guarantee you that this time it was not because I touched a button. I figured that that was the case the last couple of times that I had technical difficulty, but I think what may have happened is just a glitch on the internet or something. So yes, if you see a bird, we are definitely back. Yes, hi Assez-vous, hi French Paul. Yeah, my apologies for that. It's super, super frustrating when things like that happen. And definitely not something that we really want to happen during a live stream. Max was quite happily here crunching on pasta while we were talking, and you know, at least I noticed that the stream had sort of cut itself out. So super, super glad that we've got everybody able to rejoin us. So what do you think, Max? What do you think? All right, would you like to chew on that? Cardboard box? Little cardboard box. That's an interesting shape. Uh-oh. I think that was a big no. How about, would you like one of these? Yeah, so that's a vine twist. We buy these in bulk and the flock enjoys them. Max does like nibbling on them. It's kind of fun to pull them apart, chew at the wicker. I don't even think wicker is quite the right word. I guess the vine. It's dried, it's crunchy. In the background, the jangling sound you hear is Tico playing with one of his toys, pots and pans, one of his favorites. He's taking a bit of a break from Hum. Yeah, Tico is actually now on his, oh dear, I don't know if this is his 6th or his 7th pumpkin of the season, but he is definitely going for that pumpkin. And as everybody knows here, Tico's not a huge fan of the paparazzi birdie. No cameras for him. There you go, bud. Although I just gave him a stick of pasta and he's kind of happy. He was actually thinking he was missing out. Oh, is that fun, buddy? So let's see, what other news do we have that we can share with you? Yes, Tango Elliott, you've joined us. We were on a live video and we had a bit of a technical glitch. I'm really frustrated that that's happened a few times. The last couple of times I figured that it was my fault that I'd hit a button. This time I was 2 feet away from the phone and there were no buttons anywhere near myself, a bird, or anything else. So I figured that it was probably just an internet drop. So super, super glad that you've been able to rejoin us successfully. So yeah, Max is just chewing away on a bit of vine and he's making what I would term a glorious mess. He's happy to make a mess. He thinks my favorite hobby is cleaning up the mess. He might be correct. I do a lot of that. Yes, French Paul, that chair will need some cleaning. This stuff is, it's dry, it sweeps off easily. I just sweep everything up, put it into a garbage bag and haul it out. Yeah. Yeah. You enjoying that, buddy? Is that a fun vine twist? Yeah, that's a truck in the alley that you hear. I just love the way that he sometimes stops and listens. Tango Elliott, really glad to see you. I wanted to ask, how is Tango's toe doing? Last week you were telling us about a surgery where he had his pinky toe removed. Any updates on that? Is Tango back to running in circles, dancing a jig? Let us know how Tango's doing. Oh, good. So Tango says the stitches came out this Wednesday. All good news. And how's Tango feeling? Oh, sorry, I misinterpreted. The stitches will come out this Wednesday, so that's in a couple of days' time. Yeah, on the 28th. Okay, that's good news to hear, Tango Elliott. Guys in the live chat, can you just send some love to Tango Elliott? Just send up some hearts or send your good wishes. Yes, French Paul, Max is having fun, but still paying attention to his surroundings. Oh, okay, I'm gonna steal this guy back. Here. Yeah, so Tango Elliott says Tango's trying to be his normal self, but has to restrict. Hey, and there's some love. Oh, today is Tango's official birthday. Well, Tango, Max would love to send wishes for the happiest of hatchiversaries. We actually have a really cool, fun hatchiversary video on this channel. I'd love to send out to you. It's fun, and it's not just for birds. As Max says in it, what do you mean humans don't hatch? He'd probably say the same thing about pups. Okay, Max, what is this? That's the same box he had earlier. I've just folded it so it might be a little easier to get the claw around, and it certainly was. Now it's destruction time. Oh, happy birthday to Tango, yeah. Oh, what is this? What is this? You want that? You want to pull? Oh, you don't want to pull. Okay, there you go. You definitely have to work for it. That's certainly a squeaky cardboard, Max. Not sure I like that high-pitched squeak it's making. You're not sure either? And we are done. Let's see what else we have to play with. I'm gonna have to get up and just go for a short walk. Look what I got. I have a twiddle. Oh, you found something. What is this? So this one's sort of a hard plastic top, and if you can see, it's sort of an interesting shape. It can spin, and when it does, it sort of rotates around. And Max loves to play with it. It just sort of almost as if he's twiddling with it. Sometimes he'll play with it for hours. Sometimes he'll play with it for seconds. Today looks like it might be the seconds. Oh, is that it? Yeah, seconds. Okay, Max. What else we got for you? What is it? Blocks in a cup? Okay, blocks in a cup it is. So we're going to add some sharp splinters to the chair. I always appreciate that, Max. I just had somebody ask me the other day about some of the wood that Max shreds, and they were kind of concerned. They said, you know, they're sharp splinters. Doesn't this present a problem for the bird? And I think they were kind of worried, sort of, not as much for my feet or my tush if I sat down on the chair, but more around what happens if the bird, you know, tried to ingest the splinter or something. And birds are actually pretty smart. They know not to ingest splinters. They know that wood is just to chew on. Orange or blue? Put them there and see what happens. On the floor. Okay. You know, Max, you can choose what you want to play with. Absolutely. I know. So the wicker was definitely a little bit of a hit, though. You want another one? Yeah. Okay. Now, things like the Wicker Toys, they really don't last for long. I think sometimes that's part of the appeal. Quick and easy to destroy, fun to pull apart. These are the toys I'll sometimes give him when we are driving out to a meetup. And it's something that gets immediate attention. He tends to chew on them until they are just absolutely shredded. I buy them in bulk. They are pretty cheap. And sometimes having a toy that will immediately distract a bird can be a really good thing. When we go to a meetup, we used to do a lot of these pre-COVID. But when we go to a meetup, what would happen is Max would sit in the car in a carrier. Believe it or not, I actually have got what I would term a large hamster cage. Big enough for Max, nice opening at the top, not super strong for the bars, but it's always supervised. And when Max came to me 16 years ago, that's how he traveled, was inside of this hamster cage. And it had a towel on the bottom, and he seems to like it. He does not like being enclosed when he's being transported. He likes the open. So we've used that ever since. I've looked into a couple of other options. This summer, I actually picked up a small dog crate for Tico, because Tico decided that he wanted to go outside but did not want to wear a leash. And around here, as everybody knows, the rule is if you are outside, you are either inside a cage or on a leash. So I might actually pick up a slightly larger cage like that for Max. I just have to figure out what would fit in the car. The hamster cage solution, I know that sounds silly, but that solution, it fits nicely in the front seat right beside me so I can keep an eye on him. And when he's in there, he sometimes tries to chew on his leash. I put on a leash before we go anywhere, just so that we're ready to go when we get to our destination and we're not having an argument. Yes, French Paul. Tico's quite often in some cage outside. Looks like a good mode of transportation for him. Absolutely. Actually, Tico's dog crate, it's now a parrot carrier, but it started out life as a dog crate. And a big shout out to our friend, I think you guys know him, Gonzo the Great. Gonzo's woman had a couple of extra dog crates that she didn't need. And we had met up at Pisces, and she was hanging out with Max. And I said, hang on, I want to take a quick look at these. And she looked and she said, well, if you're after a small one for Tico, you know, I want to gladly pass on. So huge thank you to Gonzo and Gonzo's woman for that. If anybody's looking for an update on Gonzo, he's doing quite well. I was talking to Lori this week. Gonzo had a vet follow-up. He's only lost about 2 grams, and he's doing quite well with his cancer. They're trying him on a brand new painkiller, but he is certainly doing well. Not sure if Lori and Gonzo were on the stream, but you know, the flock is always thinking about you. Gonzo the Great, yes, French Paul, of course we're friends with the Muppets. And Gonzo actually sometimes reminds me a bit of a Muppet. He is a 60-year-old Timney African Grey, actually 61 years old. Now this is incredibly old for a Timney. The Timney's lifespan is 40 to 50 years. Gonzo completely missed the memo. He's at 61 years, still going strong. But one thing I love about Gonzo is he has a very distinctive beak. Sometimes reminds me of Gonzo in the Muppets' nose. You know, it's just one more thing to love about him. So absolutely. Yes, French Paul, Gonzo actually has cancer of the preen gland. And given his advanced age and his relative frailty, decision was made just palliative to keep him comfortable. So our friend Lori is taking really, really good care of him. I know she's talked on here a few times, but I think it's always good to share sort of what's happening with the flock. And yes, Rebecca, Gonzo's certainly on InstaFlock, and he has made a few visits here as well. Let's see, well, especially when you look at our weekend reviews, you know, we used to do a lot of Moluccan meetups, and of course, like any good Moluccan, Max is not specious. He calls it a Moluccan meetup because he was the parent who was organizing it, but we welcomed Moluccans, we welcomed Elnoras, we welcomed Quakers and Cakes, we welcomed African Greys. Everybody was welcome. A lot of Umans came as well. It was actually a great way to hang out and talk to people about parrots and do a bit of education really on the birds, because honestly, first reaction that most people have, they see Max, they see another large parrot, they're acting cute, they go, oh my gosh, I want one. Sort of the same reaction that you get when you look at a stuffed animal, right? Oh, I want one. What they want is they want a cuddly friend for life, feathered, you know, something cute, something that's not going to be a problem. And what they don't want is they don't want the noise, they don't want the mess, and they probably don't want the lifetime commitment. Max can easily live 80 to 100 years. He's only 26 years young. Yes, he looks like a little angel. If you look closely, that halo's propped up on his horns. He can act up. When he came to live with us, he was screaming nonstop. He was biting everybody. He did not want to, he was really angry with the world. Weren't you, buddy? He's become much calmer, much happier, and much better behaved. So it's definitely been a bit of a journey for him, but this is not the same bird that I met 16 years ago. So, I mean, birds, they are an absolutely huge commitment, and a lot of people don't realize that when they first start thinking that they want a bird. Yes, Max. You know, it really is, if you get a bird, you get the good along with the bad. And certainly you're seeing the best part of Max quite often. I mean, right now he's pretty well behaved. You know, occasionally I'll post up some videos of when he's yelling. Now, Max is a bit of a diva. Don't know if you guys have noticed this, but as soon as I bring out a camera, if he's throwing a fit or having a tantrum and I bring out the camera, he looks at me and says, oh, I better behave for my flockers. They're watching me. It's almost funny. Doesn't work all the time, but it certainly is one way to get him to start being cute and start behaving. Now, he certainly can get very noisy at times. I agree with French Paul. Whenever somebody mentions they want a cockatoo because they're adorable, show them a video of one throwing a fit or being out of control. Absolutely, French pole. And I mean, sometimes people will see a parrot throwing a fit and throwing essentially a tantrum and saying, "Aw, isn't that kind of cute?" Well, it is cute until it starts happening endlessly. Honestly, you have to understand that there's going to be mess, there's going to be noise, and this is not something you're going to change. When you enter into a commitment with a parrot, it is a lifetime commitment, and that bird is going to be who the bird is, regardless of everything else. You're not going to be able to change some of those core behaviors, such as making a mess, such as throwing things, such as yelling. This is what the bird is. The bird is a wild animal. The other question I'll see is people saying that they're looking for a parrot, but they want one that won't bite them. Got news for you. It's not a question of if the bird will bite. It's a question of when the bird will bite. When you have a large bird, you know that you have a large beak. You know that something will happen and you will get munched on. The last time that I got bit hard by Max, he was upset with me. And I had him out, as well as Tico had just come for a visit. He was watching Tico on my shoulder in the same room as him. Usually when Tico would come for a visit, Tico would shoulder and we'd walk out of the room. But we were in the same room because of the layout of this house. So Max was watching and getting really jealous because he's going, "Wait a minute, are you two-timing with my Uman?" And he got kind of jealous of Tico. And he was out and he suddenly got really, really aggressive with me and started snapping towards me. And I actually clued in pretty quick that it was T-Cal on my shoulder. So poor T-Cal got evicted. He got picked up and thrown onto the couch. I think he landed on his back. He was fine. It was just a light toss, but I needed him to be a good distance away from me and a good distance away from Max. And Max decided to start glaring at me and start posturing. Now, I was trying to give him some space, but I will not back down when he does that, because if I back down, he's going to decide that he's top bird and it's going to be top bird for life. That's the way that he thinks. And I said to him, you do not intimidate me. And he actually was mad enough that he reached out and he bit me. He got me with his beak right underneath my nose, right underneath the nostril. If you're curious, yes, there are a lot of nerves in that area. If you're not sure, just give yourself a light pinch or pull a hair that's attached there. It hurts. So he nailed me there and I didn't move. I mean, it was just a flash bite and he backed off, and I was not holding him at the time. He was standing there and I just glared at him. And he looked at me and I glared at him. At this time, I actually had blood dripping off of my face, and I was not happy. And he just sort of looked at me and went, and you could just see that posturing deflate. He just sort of backed right off and just sort of looked almost sheepish, realizing that he had crossed the line. And I just glared at him, and they understand. They like to be liked. They want to be part of the flock. And me giving him an evil eye, he understood that dirty look. And definitely that one really, really hurt. Once he calmed down, I told him that he was a good bird, told him that he was acting better now, and interacted with him for a couple of minutes. And then I popped him into his cage because I figured that he was also probably a little bit overtired. I tossed T-Cal on top of his cage as well, and then I went to deal with the fact that I had blood dripping. But I mean, it really, really hurts. If I would have reacted to that and I would have started screaming, I would have given him a drama, all of a sudden, he would have thought every single time that I bite, I'm going to get somebody who's going to entertain me. Not going to be the case. You cannot react that way. I couldn't punish him because that bird, they're, unlike a kid, they don't have the same understanding of cause and effect. It's very short-term cause and effect, and if you punish them, if you try to smack them or put them in timeout or something, they don't really understand what's going on. Dirty look, That's enough. Then that one actually tends to speak a little bit more in bird language. So that's definitely one approach to it. And I mean, I have not been bit very often by Max, but it hurts. I've been nailed by Tico as well. Tico, actually one time he did not like the camera, and he didn't like the fact I was holding a book, and he was trying to tell me that he should be the center of attention, and he really nailed me hard on my finger. By the way, an African gray parrot can break a finger with his beak. That's all I'll say about that. It hurt. But I mean, a lot of it is you pay attention to the body language. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to get bit, but that also does not mean that you let the bird get away with bloody blue murder. You just watch things ahead of time. It's responsibility. Every bird yells, every bird bites. One thing I did to help educate people about parrothood is I put together a video called What You Need to Know Before You Adopt. And that video has Max screaming at the top of his lungs. It has Max making a mess. And it really talks about what the realities are of living with a bird. Max gets tired, he's going to scream. Max, it's in the evening, he wants to contact call, he's going to scream. It happens. And absolutely. Greenbird says Amazon bites are not so fun either. Every bird, when they bite, it can really, really hurt. Moluccans and cockatoos, if you look at the beak structure, you've got the top of the beak, which is one point, and the bottom of the beak. Oh, thank you for trying. Can you open your beak for a minute, buddy? Yeah. You can see how it's almost sort of a bit of a smile shape with two sharp points underneath it like this. So you sort of have the top mandible and the bottom two mandibles. That really hurts when he bites. You'll have a puncture wound from the top beak, and you'll have something that has two little punctures and a smile cut between them from the bottom beak. That hurts. And absolutely, when a bird bites, they can draw blood. It can be ugly. And every single bird bites. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. I've been bit by Max, I've been bit by Tico, I've been bit by T-Cal. I don't hold it against them. I don't hold a grudge, but it does teach a lot of respect for the beak. Yes, and absolutely. Christine had a really, really, really good comment there. She said, and it's usually my fault. And that, I mean, the idea of fault is a really interesting one. Usually, if a parrot bites, unless they've been taught that biting is the way to get back to the cage or to get some entertainment, usually if a parrot bites, there's a reason behind it. Now, while you may not agree with the reason, in the bird's mind, that reason is well justified. Tico is out at 2 a.m, he's overtired, and I flip him over on his back and I'm playing with him. He chomps me. He figured he was quite well, he had a really good reason. He was tired and he had no idea what was going on at 2 a.m. Any other time, that kind of play would have been appropriate. I had been the failure on that because I did not pay attention to the fact that he was overtired and, it was just not the right time. When Max nailed me under the nose, Max was feeling really, really jealous of T-Cal. Keep in mind, parrots are emotional beings. Think of a parrot as a child just entering the terrible twos. They think they're the center of the world. They have no emotional regulation. Yes, your grayness. Those emotions can change mercurially. They don't really understand how they are reacting to others. They don't have that same rationale. And I mean, it's basically that parrot is a child in the terrible twos emotionally for his entire life. As a parrot owner, you have a number of responsibilities if you do get bit, how you are reacting to it, and how you're supporting that bird if something happens. Yeah, there's usually some cues, but it's not a question of if you get bitten, it is a question of when you get bitten. I can guarantee you that both a Moluccan beak and an African gray beak have a lot of pressure behind them. It definitely hurts. I mean, Tico's really reasonably well behaved, but certainly I've been nailed by him, and I've even been nailed by him by accident. One time I was wearing a shirt that was quite a slippery fabric, and Tico decided he wanted to try to climb up my shirt. So I think something had scared him and he tried to climb up my shirt. And he saw it sitting on my collarbone, just sort of a little, you know how your collarbone sits. There was just a little bit of a lump there, and he reached up to grab the collarbone, and the shirt started slipping off of it. Well, he did what any parrot in his right mind would do. It's like, I don't know what's happening with my perch. I'm gonna just jump my perch hard. I'm just gonna grab it a little bit harder so that it doesn't slide. Well, he didn't understand that there was actually my collarbone underneath my shirt, and it was quite well attached to me. It was not a perch. I had just a huge bruise from that. But I mean, I'm not going to blame him. It was not intentional, but it does happen. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just looking here at a few of the comments. French Paul says, Mr. Max and Gotcha have perfect videos of that. Screams cause the mic to saturate in the videos. Oh, absolutely. When the flock gets going, I mean, they can scream to wake the dead. Kind of appropriate in the season of Hella Weird. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and look at Max. He is the innocent angel right now. He knows how to work a crowd. But I do have a few videos, especially aimed at people who are thinking about getting a bird, just so they can understand that it's not always the cute side of things. I try to put out some new content all the time. I try not to put out too much yelling. And, Max was upset that he was yelling and throwing a tantrum. I was trying to start a live stream. I would probably just get onto the live stream for 2 minutes and say, hey guys, we're going to have to cancel because Max is not in the mood. Or I might choose to invite Tico onto the live stream or do something a little bit different. There's always things that you can do, but absolutely, they are little kids. They are absolutely little kids. Let's see what else we've got here on comments. Yeah, Rebecca, they usually give you a warning if you're watching body language. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, body language is really, really huge. Well, thank you, Tico. Tico thinks I should whisper. Candy says, my lovebird Linus bites when she's frustrated, when I'm not understanding what she's communicating, which is most of the time. Candy, my first birds were lovebirds, and I can agree with you that their bites can really hurt as well. I actually remember one time I had 2 lovebirds sitting on my shoulder, and this is a long, long time ago. And something startled them, something fell. I don't know what happened. I don't remember what happened, but I do remember that Crombie and Cleo, they're 2 lovebirds on my shoulder. Crombie took a peck at Cleo just before he took off my shoulder, and I'm sure that this peck was meant of, get the heck out of here, there's danger. And Cleo, she got pecked and she turned around, she nailed me on the neck. I mean, I looked like I had a vampire bite. I was in a perfect Halloween costume. It was bleeding, it had a beak mark, and she took off as well. And I'm going, what did I do? But essentially in the wild, they would just peck at each other to say, hey, there's danger, get going, wake up. And I just happened to be the end of the line, and I had some soft bits on my neck. I mean, it didn't stop me from having lovebirds on my neck, but it certainly reminds me why you don't want some of the larger birds near your face. A scared or startled bird can do a lot of damage. Do you want a bird whose beak is on the level with your eye? On your shoulder? Yeah, probably not. With my central flock, Tico and Max, they don't sit on shoulders. I do not encourage that. I encourage them to sit lower and places where I can control them. TCal's a bit of a special case. TCal's older, and TCal's humans have always had TCal as a shoulder bird. I make an exception because it's not fair to TCal when he comes over for a visit. This is basically sort of a secondary home, a holiday palace, if you will. When he comes over here to visit, it's not up to me to change all of the rules. You know, he'd certainly be very, very confused about what was going on. So I work within the rules. I will let him on my shoulder, but I also encourage him to be on perches, and I give him alternates. But I'm not going to change the ground rules of his world because he would not understand that. So if you're wondering where TCal is today, oh my gosh, Azevu says that's why parrots wear an eye patch. Oh gosh, that is absolutely true. I love it. The pirate costume, always wear the parrot on the same side as the eye patch. Oh, absolutely. TCal went home this week. TCal's humans do a lot of traveling, and they are living their best life. Usually TCal comes over, and TCal stays for 6 weeks to 3 months at a time, longer periods of time. This time he was only here for a couple of weeks. He came in, and they did with COVID, obviously traveling's quite limited. They did a bit of van camping, and when the snow really started to hit in both BC and Alberta, they decided, you know, the weather's not great, it's time to head home. So TCal was only here for a couple of weeks, but we certainly appreciate having him over. I actually have a spare cage here. It's a smaller cage than what I keep Tico in. It was actually Tico's one of Tico's original cages. Actually, thinking back to it, I think it was actually Athena's original cage, and she was a lesser sulfur. It's a good size. It's not the biggest, but it is a bit bigger than the cage that TCal stays in at home. So it's a bit more palatial. Now, TCal at home, TCal's humans are retired. He has the run of the house. The cage is really sleeping in, and if they're out. So here, he tends to spend a bit more time in the cage because if I'm at work, the birds are expected to play on their own in the cage. And TCal certainly is quite happy to do that. But I just pop him in that spare cage. I build it up, pop him in there. This weekend, I've got to wipe it down, take it apart, and put it away. It's one of the avian adventure style cages that and the kind that just sort of slide together. The metal's beginning to distort, but I mean, it's been put together and taken apart probably a few hundred times. It's now at the point that to take it apart requires a hammer and a block of wood just to encourage it a little bit. So I'll probably pop that apart and put it away until next time TCal comes. But it's certainly good to have that spare cage. If I go traveling and I'm out of town, I'll take that smaller cage, and that's what Tico stays in while I'm gone because it's a little bit easier to transport. And then I'll take apart Tico's cage, which is a little bit easier to transport than Max's cage, and give Max Tico's cage for the interim when I'm gone. It's, you know, if I'm dropping it at somebody's place. Seems to work really, really well. Yeah, TCal's definitely the cutest Amazon around. Oh, Liz has a really interesting comment. There's another reason for the pirate eye patch. They can uncover one eye when it's dark, if they're going beneath decks, and basically that eye is already acclimatized and adjusted for dark when they go beneath decks. That's actually a really good comment. I think that's probably got a fair bit of truth to it. Hey Max, what you doing? Yeah, doesn't he look just cozied up with 1 foot curled? So Max, it's not a live stream in October without Spooky. Or is it Skinny? Nope, that's Skinny. I'm sorry. There we go. Oh boy. I'm gonna have to sit over here a little bit. There you go. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Yeah, Max is at the point when he's seen skinning around enough, he's just ignoring it. Yeah, Max is making sure we share all the information about why birds are doing things. Oh, absolutely. And actually, that was one of the reasons why Max and Q and a few of the other bird owners started doing some of the meetups and talking to people. I mean, making sure parrots are unique. It's not something that everybody has. I mean, you go outside, you walk down the road, you're going to see somebody walking a dog. This is commonplace. They're cute. But the parrots seem to be just in an area of their own. Most people, they've seen them, they've recognized them, but they've not had the opportunity to physically interact with them. They've not been able to reach out and, may I? Okay, and just give them a little bit of a quick scritchy here. You know, handle the feathers and go, oh my goodness, this is a really, really tame bird. Isn't this wonderful? And certainly the first bird that I ever handled was a budgie. And I think I was 17 at the time. And this bird, it would sit on my finger. Like, this was just amazing. There was a bird sitting on my finger. Then it pooped on me. Not quite as amazing. Budgie poop is nothing compared to Moluccan poop, I can tell you that. So I definitely came over time and learned how to manage and how to deal with birds. You don't learn all at once. But I remember just the astonishment of being able to handle that little tiny budgie and just how amazing that was. But I think there's a lot of people, they're just fascinated when they see a bird. If Max and myself go for a walk around the neighborhood, we don't get very far. We stop a lot. We stop for pictures. We stop to talk to people. We stop to give the elevator speech. You know, the top questions people ask is what's his name? Is he a male or female? How long have you had it? How old is it? What is it? Where do they come from? I mean, those ones are really the top questions. People are curious. You answer those questions 100 times, but that's okay. So just hanging out with Max can be a huge thing for people, but if they're thinking about getting a parrot, you have the opportunity to talk to them a little bit, or really any bird, and say, you know what, this bird is not part of the furniture. They might sit on the furniture, but they're not part of the furniture. They're not like Skinny over there. Skinny comes out every October, hangs out on top of some pumpkins, entertains the flock, and then gets put away in a dark cupboard, dusted off again at the beginning of next October. That's not a bird. The bird is a living creature and a lifetime commitment. You have to interact with that bird. You can't just stick them in the cage and ignore them. It's not just putting out food and water. You also have to deal with the parrot's emotional needs. You have to deal with the parrot's needs for companionship. And certainly Max here, he's just leaning forward a little bit, balanced over one foot. Fluffing chops up. He's looking a little bit tired, but that's okay. So definitely birds can be a lifetime commitment. And this is something a lot of people don't understand. Even a small budgie or a lovebird, their lifespan's not going to be nearly as long, but they still are living beings and they still deserve to have a decent life. Other part of taking the parrots out for meetups, you show people that that bird's life is more than just the four walls of a cage. The bird has a right to explore the world around him. They have a right to live, go on outings. You know, it's not just about, moving from one perch to another perch. Max loves meetups. He loves seeing new things, hearing new things. He likes having a roof over his head. He thinks that this is pretty cool. That big sky outside can be a bit scary, but it's definitely enrichment for the bird as well. So the birds enjoy it. But the biggest thing really is educating people as to what the bird needs, and really, if you're adopting a bird, what you're doing. a lot of people think that if they're adopting a bird, they want to adopt a baby. And that's a huge thing that happens. People adopt a baby bird, and he's cute and he's cuddly. And then that bird starts to get a little bit older and is no longer cute and cuddly. That bird goes through the terrible 2s, and the terrible 3s, and the terrible 4s, and the terrible 5s. I mean, you can sort of see the pattern here. That bird is not always going to be cute and cuddly. That bird's going to bite. That bird's going to act out. You're super interested in the bird for the first few months, and then, you start realizing that that cage is a lot of work. The 5th time that the bird dumps the food bowl in a day and scatters it across the entire floor, I didn't sign up to just clean floors 24/7, but realistically, if you have a parrot, you did sign up for that. That is what parrot ownership entails. One thing we talk to a lot of people about is rehoming parrots. And certainly there are stats out there that talk about some of them are high numbers, some of them are lower numbers. I think the worst case I've seen is 1 in 10 cockatoos are one of the ones that are rehomed the most. And by the time that the cockatoo is 1 or 2, there's a 80 to 90% chance that they're going to be rehomed. I mean, it's just natural behavior and somebody realizing that they cannot handle it. Sometimes people hang on a little bit harder. Some birds, it takes 2 or 3 homes before they find a final home. And in each home, they learn some bad behaviors. They figure out that life is not quite what it's made for. And certainly they are wild animals. It's not like a dog or cat, folks. But there are a lot of wonderful parrots that are in rescues that deserve to have a forever home, and it can be very, very rewarding to adopt an older parrot. When I met Max, he was 10 years old. He was living in a basement. He was screaming and biting nonstop. He was angry with the world. Today you see him, he is super sweet. I mean, I have no problem with him sitting on my lap on the chair if I taking a nap. I mean, I don't have any worry about what he's going to do. Might chew on the chair. I'll probably wake up in a big hurry if he tries to sneak in a bite, but he pretty much knows the rules. Yeah, so Max right now, he was munching on a piece of spaghetti. Yeah, he's kind of having a bit of fun. He's falling a bit asleep. So yes, Tango makes a good point. Birds are messy, kids are messy, dogs are messy, kitties are messy. It's just different types of messes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But honestly, I think birds can be the messiest, especially large parrots. And if you don't believe me, I'd love to invite you over to help me clean some parrot cages. Yeah, okay, French Paul actually had a good comment here. 75 to 90% of the cockatoos are rehomed within 2 years, according to Gotcha's mom. Yeah, absolutely, French Paul. I've heard some of those stats as well, and it wouldn't surprise me. Cockatoos are super sweet, super cuddly, and oh my gosh, they're so cute when they're babies. Not quite as cute as they get a little bit older, and certainly I can understand why people will rehome them. Yeah, and it's definitely a lifestyle change. If you have a parrot, I mean, you've got to be there for the parrot. It's, if you have a dog, you have to take them for a walk a few times a day. They've got to have the opportunity to poop. You got to clean up the poop. But parrots, very, very demanding of your time. They're flock animals, and believe it or not, you're part of their flock. Another huge difference between cats, dogs, and parrots. Cats and dogs are domesticated. Parrots are very much wild animals with wild instincts. Doesn't mean that I could pop Max outside and expect that he'd be able to fend for himself. He wouldn't have a clue. That would be abuse. Even in if I took him to the Moluccan Islands in Indonesia with other Moluccans, he wouldn't have a clue. He's not been raised to fend for himself. He is an indoor bird. When he was hatched in captivity and raised with humans, I mean, he learned a different way of life. Absolutely. The large parrots don't necessarily make a great pet. They're a lot of work and there are a lot of responsibilities. But you know what? I would not trade Max and Tico in for the world. No, I wouldn't, buddy. Yeah. So maybe I'll hop off the soapbox here. Yeah, we did talk a lot about parenthood, and certainly I think that Max looks at me and says that I'm his pet Uman. Yeah, and he probably looks at the world like that. He has a pretty good life. He does hang out in the cage while I'm at work. He's got lots of things to play with. He entertains himself. Right now, a couple of feathers on his back look a little bit natty, but what he's been doing in his cage is he's been shredding paper. And he backs himself into the really far back corner of his cage and he shreds newspaper. And he almost forgets that he's got 4 feet of cage ahead of him. And he backs himself into the corner, sticks his feathers and his butt right out through the bars. And it's almost as if he's trying to sort of nest into the back corner. I mean, nothing really you can do about that. That is what tends to happen, and that's what his game is. So it's not abuse that his feathers are a little bit natty on his back. It's just the way that he plays. And quite honestly, he can choose how he wants to play. Right, buddy? Right, buddy? So, Max, do you think you can buck for us? Can you buck? Can you buck? Max, can you buck? Now, you'll probably have noticed that Max is much more willing to balk when he is outside. Indoors, he's not so much into clucking. He seems to think that that's an outdoor activity. Isn't that right, buddy? Oh. You're not going to balk, but you are going to nibble on a little bit of the wicker that you shredded. Yeah, that's a snowblower outside that you hear. That's okay. You can definitely see he's looking a little bit alert right now, a little bit shy about the noise outside and what's going on. Yeah, big noisy monster. Yes, Einstein, Max has a mind of his own. Cheryl says that Bob likes to weave his tail into his cage bars. And French Paul says, of course balking is an outdoor thing. There's no chickens in the house. Absolutely. Well, guys, I think we're probably going to wrap up this week's live stream. I really, really appreciate that everybody hung out with us. If you missed part one we were looking at a little bit of snow. And I'll go back and I'll just edit descriptions so that people know that part 1 leads into part 2 and it cut out on me. And definitely appreciate that everybody did come and they came back when we restarted the stream. We will try and put out some spooky Halloween goodness in our posts this week, and we'll try and toss a few of those posts up on YouTube community as well, since not everybody is on all of Max's socials. But we're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instaflock. And there's usually some quick cameos there, sort of the type of stuff that you'll see in Max's musings, but just sort of one clip at a time. Max was skinny, Max having a snack, Tico shredding a pumpkin, whatever that might be. And I'll definitely update Pumpkin Report in a little while as well. Yeah, it was super great to see you, Einstein, Christine, French Paul, everybody joining us. Absolutely. Thanks, Tango Elliott. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And yeah, if anybody's looking for a live stream tomorrow, Einstein is on. I mean, there's always a lot of great content, isn't there, buddy? Okay, Max, do you want to say bye? You say bye-bye? All right, buddy. Okay, guys, have a great week. Stay warm.